What if you woke up tomorrow and discovered that the legendary Nissan GTR, nicknamed Godzilla for its ability to demolish all rivals, had roared its last roar? For more than half a century, the Skyline and GTR nameplates have sparked devotion unlike almost any other car. Rumors are swirling that Nissan might be calling it quits on its monstrous supercar slayer, leaving fans to wonder, have we really reached the end of the GTR era? Some say these rumors are just the latest wave of internet speculation. Others claim the GTR's unstoppable lineage can't survive in a rapidly changing automotive world focused on electrification. Is the king of JDM officially stepping off the throne? Today we're exploring the shocking turns this car took to earn its fearsome reputation, plus the controversies, challenges, and surprises it faced over 6 decades. By the end of this journey, you'll know exactly why Godzilla became a legend and whether it still has another rise in store. Buckle up for the story behind one of the most dominant machines ever to prowl a racetrack or a city street. Because once you hear how the GTR was born, evolved, and reshaped the entire car industry, you'll never look at it the same way again. The GTR legend traces back to a single heart-stopping moment in 1964 at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. In front of an astonished crowd, Prince Motors driver Yoshikazu Tsunako zoomed past a Porsche 904, one of Germany's top-tier racers, on a sweeping turn. This was no minor upset. It was a shot heard around the automotive world. How could a boxy Japanese sedan outrun a precision-engineered German thoroughbred? To understand that question, we have to look at Prince Motors, a small Japanese manufacturer later absorbed by Nissan. Engineers under the guidance of Shinichiro Sakurai had been tasked with creating a race car that could demonstrate Japan's emerging technological might. The result was the Skyline 2000 GT, a humble four-door that nobody outside Japan expected to be more than a curiosity. But thanks to a potent engine, a finely tuned suspension, and clever weight distribution, the Prince badged Skyline did the unthinkable. It didn't just keep up with the big names, it overtook them. That day at Suzuka effectively birthed the idea that Japan could produce sports cars equal or superior to their Western counterparts. It also lit the fuse for a line of automobiles that would eventually evolve into the first GTR. Soon after, Prince Motors decided to convert this race-bred creation into a street-legal version. Why not let everyday enthusiasts experience the same engineering that toppled iconic German cars? This line of thinking led to bigger ambitions, culminating in a brand new engine called the S20, dropped into the earliest Skyline GTR models. But the seeds of the GTR's fame weren't just about track performance. People who saw that Skyline pass the Porsche realized Japan wasn't content making economy vehicles anymore. They wanted to carve out their place in the Performance Hall of Fame. The story might have ended there, just a marvelous underdog moment in racing, but Nissan had bigger plans. They took the Skyline's budding reputation and turned it into a weapon that would soon terrorize racetracks all over the planet. Yet in a few years, fate would intervene in ways no one anticipated. By 1969, Nissan had absorbed Prince Motors and debuted the first true Skyline GTR to the public. Officially known as the KPGC-10, it quickly picked up the nickname Hakosuka, derived from Japanese words meaning boxy skyline. With its squared-off shape, slim pillars, and a certain Street Fighter aesthetic, the Hakosuka was instantly recognizable. It carried that 2.0-liter S20 engine derived from Prince's race cars, an inline-six that sounded raw, energetic, and ready to rumble from the moment you turned the key. The 160 horsepower might seem modest by modern standards. That figure was game-changing for a Japanese-built street car in the late 1960s. Tuners discovered they could push the engine well beyond 200 horsepower without too much trouble, giving birth to an underground culture of modifying Skylines. In the hands of capable drivers, the Hakosuka seemed unstoppable. It handled brilliantly thanks to its semi-trailing arm suspension, making the car nimble and eager on tight circuits. Soon, the GTR began collecting wins in Japanese touring car racing. Fans flocked to see Hakosuka GTRs battling wheel to wheel with European machines once considered untouchable. Victory after victory propelled the GTR's reputation from an upstart to a bona fide legend. This wave of success, however, slammed into a global crisis in the early 1970s. When the oil embargo hit in 1973, gas prices spiked and the world focused on smaller, more fuel-efficient designs. Governments introduced new emission standards that choked performance potential, and Nissan found it increasingly difficult to justify a high-powered specialty car like the GTR. The second-generation model, often referred referred to as the KPG C110, was produced in such limited numbers, just under 200 units, that it never even took to the racetrack in an official capacity. Emission regulations, economic downturns, and consumer demand for practicality conspired to kill off the GTR, at least for a while. Fans who had witnessed the Skyline's feats were shocked by how swiftly it disappeared. To some, it felt like a great tragedy, but behind the scenes, Nissan's engineers refused to forget what the GTR had achieved. They would keep tinkering, keep dreaming, and eventually reignite that performance spark. It would just take more than a decade for the world to see Godzilla reincarnated in a new form. Fast forward to the late 1980s. The GTR name had been dormant for years, and some believed Nissan would never revive it. Enter the R32 Skyline GTR in 1989, a car designed by a small, intensely dedicated team led by engineer Naganori Ito, himself a disciple of the original mastermind, Shinichiro Sakurai. Their mission wasn't simply to create a good sports coupe. They set out to build a racer that could demolish the competition in Japan's Group A touring car series. At the heart of the R32 was the now legendary RB26 DETT, a twin turbocharged inline 6 that Nissan officially rated at 276 horsepower. Anyone with a rudimentary knowledge of the gentleman's agreement between Japanese automakers knew that figure was underrated. In truth, the early R32 GTRs cranked out well over 300 horsepower, making them monstrous for the era. Coupled with Nissan's new Atessa all-wheel drive system, which only sent power to the front wheels when slip was detected, the R32 possessed handling unlike anything else on the street. If you're wondering how it got the nickname Godzilla, look no further than the car's performance in Australian touring car events. Wearing distinctive red, white, and blue liveries from teams like Gibson, the R32 Skyline ripped through the field, securing victory after victory and embarrassing local Australian V8 heroes. Journalists there dubbed it Godzilla because it came from Japan and tore apart everything in its path. The name stuck, and fans worldwide began to associate the GTR badge with unstoppable racing dominance. In just 4 years, the R32 racked up 29 victories and 29 races in the Japanese touring car circuit, an unprecedented level of success. Car enthusiasts around the globe started to pay attention. Was this Skyline for real, or was it some fluke? As tests rolled in, journalists discovered the R32 wasn't just about raw horsepower. Its sophisticated AWD system, adept chassis, and near-perfect balance made it a track weapon that also excelled on back roads. Yet for all the love the R32 received, Nissan wasn't satisfied. The R32 was merely the first shot fired in a renewed GTR onslaught. The next model would divide opinions, but push the platform's limits even further. When the R33 Skyline GTR arrived in 1995, fans were at once excited and skeptical. On paper, the R33 weighed more than its predecessor. It featured smoother, more rounded bodywork. Many worried Nissan had taken a step backward, robbing the car of the R32's raw edge. Yet those who dismissed the R33 for its extra bulk missed out on some crucial details. Nearly every component, from the suspension geometry to the improved Atessa system, was refined to a higher standard. Engineers spent countless hours reinforcing the chassis to increase rigidity. They also recalibrated the all-wheel drive mechanics for faster reaction times, letting the R33 put down power even more effectively in slippery conditions. The aerodynamic enhancements, while subtle, lowered drag and improved high-speed stability. Despite being heavier, the R33 famously set a new production car record at the Nürburgring, besting the R32's lap time by more than 20 seconds. That kind of improvement is colossal in motorsports terms, especially when the factory rating still stated 276 horsepower. In short, Nissan continued to operate under the gentleman's agreement while giving owners a platform that made well over 300 horsepower once freed from factory restrictions. If the standard R33 GTR wasn't eye-opening enough, Nissan's performance arm Nismo took it a step further with the 400R, a special edition pushing around 400 horsepower from a bored-out 2.8-liter RB engine. This car shattered illusions that Japanese manufacturers were stuck at 276 horsepower. It also hinted at just just how far Nissan could push the GT-R if unchained by formalities. Despite these achievements, the R33 sometimes carries the reputation of a middle child. It's overshadowed by the R32's iconic first punch and the R34's pop culture fame. But for anyone who's driven or researched the R33 in depth, there's no denying its significance. It built on the R32's legacy of fearsome performance and set the stage for what most would call the definitive GT-R, the next generation that turned the brand into a full-blown cultural icon. In '99, Nissan unveiled what would become the most famous Skyline GT-R, the R34. It returned to sharper, more angular styling, evoking the spirit of the beloved R32. But it wasn't just a throwback. The R34 bristled with high-tech features, including a multifunction display co-developed by Polyphony Digital, the studio behind Gran Turismo. Drivers could monitor lap times, G-forces, and even real-time engine statistics from the dash. The RB26 DETT engine received further enhancements, with reinforced internals and improved turbos that gave it incredible tuning potential. While the R34 was already a sensation in Japan, it reached an entirely new audience when Hollywood placed a striking blue R34 in 2003's Too Fast, Too Furious. Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, drove it in some of the film's most memorable scenes. This cinematic moment skyrocketed the GT-R's global appeal. Suddenly, millions of young fans were dreaming of an R34, even if they lived in countries where it wasn't legal to import. Internet forums blew up with discussions on gray market imports, elaborate modifications, and stealth methods to sneak these cars past border authorities. Beyond the silver screen, the R34 carved its own legend in motorsports, continuing the Skyline's winning ways and capturing the hearts of enthusiasts who adored JDM performance. Special editions like the V-Spec, V-Spec 2, M-Spec, and newer variants turned collecting R34s into a fervent hobby. Each limited version introduced unique tweaks, like carbon fiber hoods, stiffer suspension setups, or exclusive colors such as the famed Midnight Purple, to feed an ever-growing appetite for rarities. Even the rumor that certain police forces in Japan had R34 GT-R patrol cars fueled internet hysteria. People loved the notion that the cops were so serious about catching speeders, they'd use a factory-tuned GT-R. Over time, these stories took on mythical status. Truth or rumor, it only added to the R34's aura. By the early 2000s, the Skyline GT-R was more than just a car brand. It was a movement, a hallmark of Japanese tuning culture that influenced everything from video games to drifting to big-budget films. Yet as the new millennium rolled on, Nissan made a dramatic choice. Instead of continuing the Skyline name for the next GT-R, they pulled off a clean break and created a model that stood on its own. The Skyline brand would still exist, but the GT-R was about to become something entirely different. That decision carried risks, but it also freed Nissan to craft one of the most remarkable performance cars of the modern age. By 2007, enthusiasts were impatiently waiting for the next big GT-R reveal. Nissan didn't disappoint. The R35 GT-R broke cover as a standalone supercar, shedding the Skyline badge and staking its claim in a much larger global market. Gone was the traditional inline-six formula. In its place stood the VR38 Det, a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V6 hand-assembled by a select group of Takumi engineers who tested every component. Every engine was a small masterpiece, meticulously crafted to the point where each Takumi literally signed off on their work. Nissan boasted 478 horsepower at launch, but real-world figures suggested the R35 could nudge closer to 500. This was a massive leap over the R34's official rating, and it put the GT-R in direct contention with high-end rivals like the Porsche 911 Turbo, Ferrari 458, Dodge Viper, and Lamborghini Gallardo, all priced significantly higher. Watching a Nissan forcibly insert itself into conversations normally dominated by six-figure supercars caused an uproar. Critics wondered how a Japanese car could possibly hang with, or in some cases beat, European icons. But the R35 delivered blistering 0 to 60 times of around 3 seconds, a top speed north of 190 mph, and cornering abilities that defied its roughly 3,800-pound weight. Of course, this new GT-R didn't escape controversy. Early models faced issues with transmission reliability if launched repeatedly in R mode. Some owners claimed Nissan tried to deny warranty coverage for broken gearboxes, sparking debates on whether GT-R technology was too complicated for its own good. Others accused Nissan of deliberately underpricing a supercar, thereby setting an impossible standard for the rest of the market. Porsche even challenged Nissan's claimed Nürburgring lap times, insinuating that they might be artificially improving improved with unofficial tires or tuning. Still, as the years passed, the R35 only got faster. Successive model updates refined the engine, transmission, and chassis. The GTR Nismo arrived in 2013, boasting a ferocious 600 horsepower. It captured lap records, dominated time attack events, and underscored Nissan's willingness to keep iterating on an already potent formula. Fans, meanwhile, asked, where's the next generation? For over a decade, Nissan seemed content to improve the R35 bit by bit, but the rumored R36 never materialized in an official capacity. Critics suggested Nissan's financial struggles, shifting corporate priorities, and the rising costs of R&D might be stalling the next big leap. As rumors swirled that Nissan might finally retire the GTR or transition it into hybrid EV territory, loyalists grew anxious. Could the company that birthed Godzilla possibly bow out under pressure from emissions regulations and supercar competition? Or in true GTR form, would Nissan once again shock the world with a stealthy, unexpected reveal? From the boxy silhouette of the Hakosuka to the high-tech prowess of the R35, the GTR has repeatedly transcended what a Japanese sports car was supposed to be. It launched by beating a Porsche at Suzuka, it earned the fearsome Godzilla moniker by terrorizing racetracks abroad, and it became a pop culture icon through video games, movies, and the unbreakable devotion of JDM enthusiasts worldwide. Every iteration introduced breakthroughs, whether it was the creation of the S20 engine, the unstoppable RB26, or the hand-assembled VR38. Each version told a new story of underdog ambition, relentless engineering, and the pursuit of mechanical perfection. Even when external forces, like oil crises, economic downturns, or corporate shakeups threatened the GTR's existence, it refused to stay gone for long. Somehow, Nissan always found a way to resurrect its monster. As automotive technology marches forward, many wonder if the GTR can remain relevant in a future of electrified and autonomous vehicles. Some speculate Nissan will combine an advanced hybrid powertrain with its signature all-wheel drive, forging a next-generation Godzilla capable of near-silent sprints alongside eye-watering torque. Others believe the brand might simply retire the badge, letting the legend remain a memory of raw gasoline-fueled dominance. One thing's for certain, the Nissan GTR is more than a model name. It's an entire cultural movement that continues to influence car designs, racing technology, and enthusiast communities. If Nissan does produce a new iteration, it will have the daunting task of outdoing a half-century of achievements. If the company chooses to end the bloodline, the GTR story will remain etched into the annals of motorsport history as one of the greatest performance dynasties ever created. The decision lies with Nissan's boardrooms, but the passion of fans worldwide could be the spark that keeps Godzilla's flame alive. Whether it roars back to life or slips away into legend, the GTR's impact will never be forgotten. Let the rumors swirl, let controversies flare, the GTR's legacy stands untouched. In a world obsessed with the next big thing, few icons manage to balance innovation, tradition, and sheer bravado like the Nissan GTR. In the end, maybe the real question isn't whether Godzilla will return, but whether the automotive landscape can ever fill the void it would leave behind. Thanks for coming along for this deep dive into the Nissan GTR. It's easy to see why millions around the globe call it their dream car. It broke rules, shattered records, and stirred controversy every step of the way. Whether or not this legendary beast is truly gone, its spirit will keep influencing performance engineering for years to come. Where do you think the GTR will go next? Hybrid power? Full EV dominance? Or is this the end of the road for Godzilla? Share your thoughts, keep the conversation rolling, and remember, there's always more to discover. The GTR story might not be finished yet, and you never know when a new rumor might become reality.